very good evening to you. Welcome to another Newsmaker Live broadcast right here on DBS Television. My name is Timothy Polion. We go up until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we conclude with the clip that peaked. We're focusing on an area of healthcare which should be of immense concern to you and imagine to the rest of the world, because we're hearing that there are some 425 million people with diabetes around the world. And this is an area that we've been hearing about over the last few years in St. Lucia, to the extent that we are hearing that we have the highest rate of diabetes in the world. So have two individuals to focus on this particular area of healthcare. And no doubt at some point in time we'll be giving you the opportunity to call in with your questions and also be entertaining your comments. By the way, today is International Diabetes Day, and it is under the theme, the family and diabetes. In just a moment, I'll be introducing my two guests to you. First, we have a report from DBS's Don Nicholas. The report was filed this evening, and the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association are very concerned about the high rate of diabetes on the island. We have this report right now.
Not only is diabetes on the increase in St. Lucia, but the cost of managing it is as well. The St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association says this is because people are not heeding the advice given when it comes to proper diet and exercise. And to make matters worse, they're not taking their medication.
People, it's non-compliance. People don't comply to the medication, the things that they have to do, the diet and exercise, to take care of the controls. And that's really the problem. We've not really taken not really understand the dangers of diabetes in this world.
The association also noted an increase in child obesity. The reason is basically the same as with the adults, that's poor diet and lack of exercise. Children nowadays tend to be more preoccupied with the gadgets rather than physical activity.
We have a lot of children who are obese, and as a result of no exercise. All the children are doing is playing on the computers or the laptops or the phones or whatever. I remember my day, we always used to be out swinging on a tree somewhere, doing some form of exercise. Now the children refuse to walk from one bus stop to another. In my day, there was no vehicle, so we had to walk anyway, miles to go to school and so on.
The St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association has organized a Moonlight Walk to commemorate Wednesday, November 14th, designated World Diabetes Day. The theme for World Diabetes Day 2018 and 2019 is The Family and Diabetes. The walk started at the Derek Walcott Square at 5:30 p.m. and ended at the Serenity Park. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Don, for this report, which was filed this evening during the DBS News World. Once again, good opportunity to introduce my two guests, Dr. Shanna Sire Filbert, Master Trainer for Chronic Disease Self-Management Program of the Ministry of Health, and Sharon Tench Nobel, Family Nurse Practitioner. Ladies, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence on the program. Let's talk about diabetes, and that scourge that is certainly taking a negative toll on us in St. Lucia. How serious is the problem, Doc?
Very serious. Currently, diabetes affects over 11% of our population. We're looking at approximately 14,200 persons diagnosed with diabetes. Of course, diabetes is affecting not only the persons who actually have the disease, but also their families, also the healthcare system, also the economy. So it is serious.
We're talking about 14,000 people who are impacted by diabetes.
Yes.
What about the people that we do not know that they have the disease, that they're suffering with it, and they might be inadvertently ignoring it as a result, Doc?
That's the other thing, because there are diabetics who actually, especially if they do not have overt symptoms, they probably not urinating frequently, not eating a lot, they do not know that they are actually diabetic because their numbers are closer to normal than the other person who may have symptoms and actually go to the healthcare provider. There is also a condition called prediabetes. So the that person already has a problem with insulin, with the body's response to insulin, but he or she has not reached the range that we use for diagnosis of diabetes.
Let's look at the early signs. What are the early signs that you're diabetic?
Well, as Doc mentioned earlier, the early signs would be frequent urination, poor healing of wounds, getting thirsty very often, maybe an increase in appetite. These would be some of the signs that you may see in these clients in the early stages.
Okay. Now, can diabetes ever be reversed? Are there stages where it can be reversed?
Well, I wouldn't say it can be reversed, because if we think of the cause of diabetes, is because the pancreas is either not producing enough insulin, or the body is not able to use the insulin as it's supposed to. Reversing diabetes, I think if a person is compliant and they make the lifestyle changes that they have to, the modifications, it may reduce it may control the blood sugar levels, and they may have a more productive life. But I wouldn't think that it can be reversed with diabetes.
I think we need to be very cautious when we use the term reversing diabetes, because I have seen it happen. Persons believe that if they get to the point of controlling their weight, watching what they eat, exercising, their blood sugars return to normal, then they believe that automatically their diabetes is gone. Then they start to, inadvertently, because lifestyle changes are difficult, so they start living anyhow again. Okay, well, my blood sugars are fine, I can now eat what I want, I can now do what I want, and within a particular period the blood sugars go up again, and that kind of thing. I think diabetes can be controlled. It's a lifestyle disease, especially in the early stages. It can be very well controlled with diet and exercise. But I think in terms of saying, okay, I'm cured of diabetes, persons need to be careful. Yes, you control your disease and you can live as normal a life as possible with normal blood sugar levels, etc. But the maintenance is important for one to actually say, okay, I have my disease under control. I think that term is a more appropriate term to control your diabetes as opposed to reversing it. Because if you reverse it, that means when you start living anyhow, you shouldn't have any more symptoms because it's gone. And we know that that's not the truth.
Let's talk about the specifics. Let's talk about an infant who's, let's say, a couple of days old. What should that individual do to ensure that they escape the wrath of diabetes as they get older, growing up, and so on?
Okay. In terms of an infant, one of the things I want to mention especially is that what the research shows is that if a parent, or especially the mom, would have had diabetes, there's something called gestational diabetes, where the mom would have diabetes during the pregnancy. If that mother would have had gestational diabetes, that child is actually more prone to becoming a diabetic by the time he or she is 21.
What if that is not the case?
If that is not the case, let's say there's a family history of diabetes, of course that child is more at risk of having diabetes, probably because mom or dad or somebody. But in terms of preventing diabetes or preventing your child from getting diabetes, we need to start early, ensuring that the diet is adequate and so on. Childhood obesity is a significant risk factor for diabetes.
So do you call an adequate diet?
We're looking at more fruits and vegetables as opposed to what we call processed foods. There's what we call high glycemic index foods, so soft drinks, the sugary snacks and so on that we tend to feed the children. Those have a lot of sugar, which are actually not necessary. They do more harm to the children's bodies, and they're extra calories. They gain weight, like we saw in the clip. Children nowadays are not half as active as they used to be before. So really and truly, we really need to watch what we're giving them to eat.
But it appears that it will take a lot of public education, and maybe on the part of the citizenry, they would have to adhere to what is being taught to them to ensure that we bring this problem under control.
There has been a lot of public education, in the primary healthcare setting at the health centers, we conduct teaching sessions. Most times we have classes before
Do
the
you think
clinic
it's
begins.
effective?
I think it's effective to some extent because you can provide somebody with information, but then you cannot force them to do what you're asking them to do. Now the compliance rate is, non-compliance rate is very, very high because clients, we speak of the lifestyle modification activities that they have to do, but most times they don't. And you may find a patient comes in and you have to say the same thing over and over again. You need to exercise, you need to change your diet, you need to, and they don't. It's like you're talking to a brick wall sometimes. I know that they have barriers that may prevent them from doing this, because like we said earlier, maybe they're too busy because we are so concentrated on going to work and making money. They don't have the time to do this, or maybe they don't have the equipment. I don't know what it is, but most times these clients, they don't do what they're told to do.
But it appears that it's inevitable that we will have a catastrophe in our hands, Doc, if people are not complying with what they're told, if people have various inconveniences, as the nurse Tench Nobel made reference to.
We do have a catastrophe in our hands. From where we are right now, it doesn't look like it's going to get better if we don't make a serious change. And I like the fact that a while ago you asked about the infant and the child, because we actually need to make a change, not in our generation, not only in the adults. We have to make a change in the children. Nurse was talking and I was thinking, it is difficult. Making change is difficult. I mean, any change. When we make New Year's resolutions, how many times do we actually keep them? So it is difficult. When we look at this year's topic for World Diabetes Day, we're looking at diabetes in the family. And individuals who have a chronic disease, this is something lifelong, they would need a good support system. And we're looking at the fact that that person should not be working in isolation. That person needs his or her family, they need the wider family, the healthcare system and so on to make those changes. We've found that persons who have a better support system tend to be more concordant with what needs to be done. So let's say you need to walk, you need to do your half an hour of walking, brisk walking every day. If you have a friend who walks with you, you tend to stick to walking every day. If you have a friend to help tell you, oh no, but you're not supposed to be eating that works better. So we're looking at the support system. Yes, persons are not doing what they are supposed to do, but what can we do about it?
I came across a piece of literature today while I was preparing for this program this evening, and part of it reads, the world is in the midst of a massive tsunami as far as diabetes and its comorbid conditions are concerned. Now, let us juxtapose that to the level of attention being given to the possibility of us having a third world war. Certainly that would cause a lot of people to panic and so on. Possibility of the United States and North America going to war. Not North America, but North Korea. That would cause us to stop and think about the after effects and so on. Now, we are looking at this particular problem, health scourge, 425 million people with diabetes, and talking about the effects and so on. Why do you think there isn't this level of commensurate concern, even looking at it at a micro level, from the perspective of St. Lucia, in really addressing this particular problem? I don't think we're giving it the kind of attention that it deserves on the scale of how we reacted to HIV and AIDS in the 1980s.
I think you're very right. We're not. I think what it is that generally we tend to be very reactive and not proactive. So when the problem escalates, that's when we start, oh, what am I going to do about it? But we need to be proactive. So before the problem even gets bigger than it is, we figure out ways and means by which we can curb the problem.
So therefore, do we need a more serious national campaign?
I think we need to put measures in place, preventive measures.
Such as?
We're looking at...
Okay. I was just thinking, preventive measures when you mentioned that, right? When we think of the age group of diabetes. Like we were talking earlier, we were saying that most times when a client comes in and they're diagnosed with diabetes, they may have had diabetes for years without noticing. So what I was thinking, maybe we should start targeting the schools. If we target the schools, like say the primary schools and the secondary schools, and we teach these children from an early age the importance of a proper diet, the importance of exercise, make it be, you know, our values, make it be something important to us. Then from there on, we might be able to curb the problem because we start very
do you
early.
ignore a section of the country, of the population, when you focus on the kids? Do you ignore the adults?
No, we don't.
And senior citizens?
We need to include them because if we start with them, we have a better chance of preventing it and preventing the complications that may arise.
I think we need to target the risk factors for diabetes. So we need to start there. Look at the risk factors and target the population at risk. We also need to look at the population who's already diabetic. Look at control. How do you control your diabetes? What do you need to do? What support do you need? And also, if you are diabetic, how do we prevent you from getting the complications? Or if you already have one complication, how do you prevent the next? That kind of thing. It needs to be across the board, looking at every aspect.
Let's look at the toll that diabetes can have on someone. What are the effects?
The effects of diabetes, it's crucial because you have...
Spell it out.
Yes, when I say crucial, I'm talking about the financial burden on the client, the financial burden on the client's family. Imagine your mother is diagnosed with diabetes right now. It impacts the entire family because somebody has to bring her to the doctor, somebody has to pay for the medication. So it impacts the entire family and the economy of that family also. When you think of that working class person, maybe have to miss out on work because of the complications of the illness, have to miss out on work because you have to go to the health center, get your blood pressure checked, get your blood test done. So it does impact even your children too, because you can't be as productive as you used to be. And also when you look at the soft side of this, when you're diagnosed with diabetes, just like any other condition, it does have a psychological toll on you. So you're not so optimistic anymore. You're thinking, where do I go from here? How about the complications? You see the news and the things you hear about diabetes. Do I have this? Am I going to get kidney failure eventually? It has a great impact on our lives.
And are we behaving as if this is really a serious problem in the country, Doc?
Are we behaving as if it is? I think even for persons who have diabetes, as a physician who sees patients and so on, I find that persons, it's almost as if they don't understand how serious the disease is. Sometimes I would say to people, do you understand what is happening in your body? Because it's almost as if persons would say to me, oh, Doc, I just have the sugar, and it's almost as if, okay, well, I bumped my toe and I'm moving on, and I'm thinking, but...
Okay, so the problem is definitely how we are educating the population, because they don't know, they're not aware, for whatever reason.
But in saying that though, in as much as we want to educate them right, we also do not want to alarm them to the point that we're saying, oh, okay, if you have diabetes, you're going to be dying in the next whatever, that kind of thing.
So
we don't want to...
Can we alarm them before they get to that stage?
I think we are. Honestly, I work in the primary healthcare
Mm-hmm.
setting, and I think we are telling the patients weekly when they come in.
But I don't think it's a national campaign. I don't think it's something that is sustained. I don't think it is effective in terms of addressing it from the perspective of English and even Creole.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't think I think the education is necessary, but a particular kind of education. I think persons have some kind of knowledge, but I'm not sure they've gotten what they need to get.
I'm exaggerating there, but shouldn't we treat it like Ebola?
That's stretching it.
Yes. I think maybe some...
I mean, it is not Ebola.
Yes, I know.
Yes. But it is serious, and it affects everyone. And I think, yes, we need to make people understand, and we ourselves need to understand that this is serious. This costs a lot. I mean, it costs children their fathers, and one of the problems with chronic diseases generally, and especially diabetes, we look at something called premature loss of life. So we're looking at persons dying. Usually persons die around 70. We're looking at persons dying a lot younger. Persons who 40-some, who just have their families, getting a heart attack and you're gone, right? Or getting an amputation and within probably 5 years, your quality of life, you know, is poor, you know, and you're probably gone too. And I mean, I look at the obituaries, I don't know if most of us do. There is a trend. Younger persons
This is scary,
are
particularly
dying.
when you have the obituaries on the evening, watching it.
So I think it is something that people need to take seriously. Generally, chronic diseases we need to take seriously because they're impacting us, they're impacting our country.
So to somebody who's watching this evening and they don't understand what would lead to diabetes and so on, what can you tell them?
Diabetes is a condition in which the body does not produce enough insulin in some cases, but also it produces enough insulin, but the body does not respond to it as it should. So that leads to the blood sugars being higher than they are supposed to be normally. Of course, if your body is supposed to have a particular level.
So what is the function of insulin?
Insulin basically allows your blood sugar levels to be normal. It does other things, but
so
the long and the
why
short
are
of
there
it.
instances where the body does not produce sufficient insulin?
Well, there are two main types of diabetes. There's the type 1 diabetes, which we're not really talking about tonight.
But what is type 1?
Type 1 diabetes occurs where the body actually destroys the cells that produce the insulin. So that person literally, the body is not producing insulin. So that person would have to get insulin shots for the rest of his or her life. That's type 1. Most of the diabetes we see in St. Lucia and in the rest of the world is what you call type 2 diabetes, which is it's lifestyle. It's in terms of, there is a genetic component, okay, but it basically, in terms of risk factors, we see type 2 diabetes more as you age. We see it unfortunately, more in the Hispanics and blacks, which most of us are. We see it if your mom or dad had diabetes, you tend to be diabetic. And of late, and that's one of the problems, obesity. As obesity has risen, as persons have become more overweight, diabetes has gone right along with it. Inactivity increases your risk of diabetes. Something called polycystic ovaries, that increases your risk of diabetes. Even high blood pressure. And we could talk about that one. And there's something called metabolic syndrome or syndrome X that increases your risk of diabetes. But as persons have more risk factors for diabetes, of course, they will tend to become diabetic as opposed to the other person with fewer risk factors. And just while we're on this, one of the things I really want the audience, persons to pay attention to is the fact that you don't have to be obese to become diabetic, because sometimes persons eat what they want and say, you know, that's why you don't see my size. I can eat what I want, but you can become diabetic and you can be slim and become diabetic.
So, Nurse, what should people eat? What should they consume? What are you advising them, to
Okay, so
to use that part of the diet?
I tell the clients all the time, imagine you have this plate, right? This is your normal meal, and 50% of this plate should be vegetables, non-starchy vegetables. The other half is 25 and 25%, right? So 25 should be your protein and 25 your starch. And I encourage them to eat the vegetables first. Because when we eat, what do we eat? We eat to be filled, right? So if you eat to be filled, you eat your vegetables first. Then you move on to your starch and your protein. By then you're full enough, there's no need to add extra starch to that meal. So I would advise them to eat lots of vegetables, but try your best to eat half of the meal vegetables and try to eat that first. So this leaves less space for the starch and the protein. So
the Rastafarians have gotten it, they've been on the ball for decades now in terms of what they've been consuming in terms of the vegetables, in terms of not consuming meat.
The vegetables, even the Bible tells us that too. Yes, and persons who strongly believe in the health message try to, as much as possible, stick to mostly vegetables and grains and nuts and less of the starch and the protein.
But why do you think that people cannot comply? You think it's because of habit, nurse?
We like to eat, and also most times when persons have a disease condition, if it's pain or headache, it bothers you all the time. So you're at it, you're thinking about it, you want to do something about it. But like diabetes and hypertension, most times they may not feel the symptoms, so it does not bother them. Like if I don't feel it, I'm not bothered, especially the men. Men usually come to the health center when they're half dead, right? But they don't take heed, sorry to say that, but then they don't take heed unless they actually feel the pain or feel the complications.
That's true.
Yeah.
What are the symptoms, doc?
Of diabetes.
Yeah.
Generally, persons would come and they would tend to urinate a lot. They would be very hungry because the body, as far as the body is concerned, it has not received any glucose, and so the brain works basically on glucose. Would be very hungry, would be very tired. They would drink a lot of water. We call them poly. So there's polyuria, which is urinating a lot, polyphagia, which is eating a lot, polydipsia, which is drinking a lot of water. They would lose weight. So sometimes you know somebody's diabetic because you've known him or her for a while, and all of a sudden you realize that person is losing a lot of weight. So you probably ask them to come in, and then, yeah, but that's one of those. They would lose a lot of weight because the body literally is trying to use the protein to get.
But you could live a healthy life by doing what? After being diagnosed?
You can maintain a healthy weight, especially if you're overweight. As you lose weight, your blood sugar levels actually improve. Eating a healthy, balanced diet, like Nurse would have said a while ago. Exercise. Exercise is really, really important, not only for diabetics, but especially for diabetics, because exercise increases what you call your insulin sensitivity, or your body's ability to respond to that insulin. So the more you exercise, the better for you, the better your blood sugars. We actually recommend 150 minutes of exercise or 30 minutes of exercise, moderate exercise 5 days a week, which is pretty doable. Brisk walking, riding, swimming. If the person is smoking, we recommend that he or she stop smoking. Smoking is actually a risk factor for diabetes, and smoking actually worsens your diabetes control and increases your risk for cancer, etc. There's nothing good about smoking, actually. In terms of being a diabetic, we recommend that you have your eyes screened annually, that you have your feet and legs checked, your kidney function checked. In as much as persons may have as much as possible on a near normal blood sugar, one of the things we recommend that diabetics do, and it's like Nurse was saying, you don't feel anything. A lot of the times you're not feeling anything so much, so you figure you're not sick. But then even if you are taking medication, even if you are trying to watch your diet, I tell the patients the things I don't see on you by looking at you. I need to get your blood tested. I need to see how your kidneys are doing. I need to see what your blood cholesterol levels are, because diabetics have their cholesterol levels are different from the normal person because of the disease. It affects not only the blood sugar, it affects the cholesterol, the kinds of cholesterol, that kind of thing. So these are things that need to be checked. And I always tell patients, if the doctor doesn't send you for your tests, you have the right to say, Doc, I need to get myself tested, because it's your disease, it's your life. Okay. The emotional support is important for diabetics, group education, and one of the things for men especially is talking about the sexual problems.
And we'll discuss that in just a moment, because I wanted to end on that note. As a matter of fact, we hear a lot that if men are suffering with diabetes, they become impotent. So we'll address that issue in just a moment. Please stay with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. My name is Timothy Polion, and my guests on the program, We have Sharon Tinch Nobal, family nurse practitioner, and Dr. Shanna Sire Filbert, and master trainer for chronic disease self-management program of the Ministry of Health. We left on a particular note, and that is, it is claimed that men who are suffering of diabetes are impotent. What say you, ma'am?
Okay, I wouldn't say that men who suffer with diabetes are impotent.
They underperform in the bedroom?
But it is actually one of the complications of diabetes, and it's the blood vessels. Of course, we know men get an erection because of the blood vessels, which get filled in the penis, and of course, those blood vessels, because they're very small, they are, because of what you call the atherosclerosis, the building up of plaque and so on, they tend to go bad before the bigger blood vessels go bad. So that would cause problems with erections. That, I'm happy to say, is not the end of the world. That is why we encourage men who are diabetic, are hypertensive, to actually talk about your sexual problems with your doctor. There are marriages which have broken up because the man is too afraid to say, okay, you know what, I can't do what I'm supposed to. It's not the end of the world. There is medication that we actually give to help the problem, especially if it can be helped. So it's not the end of the world.
You think that this deficiency can spur men into ensuring that they live a healthy lifestyle and so on, to prevent them from becoming impotent or not being able to perform in the bedroom? You think that can be used as some kind of avenue to get a message across, or to lure them to the doctor, to the GP?
I am not too sure about that, because the patients we have right now, the men who do come in, they know about these complications and it does not make much of a difference. So I don't think using this to scare them would make a difference.
I'm not sure I'm into scaring persons to come in. I think I'm more into take responsibility for your health. I say to my patients, I'm your doctor, I love you, I care about you, but there is a responsibility that you have to yourself.
But shouldn't we saving people against themselves, the poor decisions that they make?
You can only do so much.
You can empower them, but you can't force them to do what you want them to do.
You can educate, you can support, but at the end of the day, this individual needs to decide if he or she wants to
take, for example, be a partner. Take, for example, the various unhealthy items that are being sold in the supermarket. Should they be sold in the first place, if we know of the impact that they're having on people when they're consumed?
We as consumers have a choice. The things are on the
shelf,
but
we be given that choice?
It's not communism, is it? It's a free country.
Yeah, but with every system, there are some negatives. Okay, with every system, even communism limits your freedom and so on. Democracy, too much freedom would put you in trouble.
I think what our responsibility is as healthcare practitioners, as representatives of the Ministry of Health, our responsibility would be to educate persons as to which foods are good, which foods are bad. In some countries, there's actually there are labels on what you call the high sodium foods, the foods that are high in triglycerides and that kind of thing. We don't have that in the Caribbean.
What about people who do not read the labels in the first place, or who cannot even read the labels?
I guess they will probably need persons.
And they look at the label, all this is a picture. It looks very good, you know, in terms of the picture that's on the item and so on, and they believe that it's worthy of consumption, being consumed.
Well, actually, one of the things we can do, and it's something we're working on, and the nutrition department, is that we're actually looking at trying to educate persons in terms of reading labels, because we do think that is necessary. If you know how to read a label, if you know, okay, this has too much sodium, I'm not going to eat it because I have high blood pressure, then that helps. So it's something we're actually working on.
Okay, people with high blood pressure should not consume salt at all?
Added salt. The sodium, of course, in the salt would worsen the blood pressure. But to say to someone you can't eat any salt, sodium is in a lot of what we eat. So we recommend that they do not add salt to the food, or they avoid foods high in sodium.
Nurse, what are some of the services being provided by the Ministry of Health at the various health clinics and so on?
Okay, in the primary healthcare setting, we have many services like free eye health. We have a visiting ophthalmologist, a community ophthalmologist who comes in to see the patients. And we also have this new program we started in February. It's called the Diabetic Retinopathy Program.
What is this program all about?
This program, as we know, we mentioned the complications of diabetes earlier, and diabetic retinopathy is one of the complications of diabetes.
Blindness?
Which leads to blindness in persons with diabetes. Now, this clinic has started in January, and we have clinics at the Castries Health Center on a Friday and at the Beaufort Health Center on a Thursday. So we're encouraging persons who have diabetes to visit the health center in the community to get an appointment, to go to these clinics to get their eyes checked. Now, at these clinics, we have cameras which were funded by the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust, also with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, along with Frimley Park Hospital. Okay, so with these cameras, when a patient comes in, we take a photograph of the back of the eye, which is called the retina, and this is the part of the eye that can be damaged from elevated blood sugars and diabetes. We take a picture of the back of the eye and we examine these photos and we look for any damage taking place in the back of the eye. Now, when these patients come in, if there is damage to the back of the eye, we also have laser, which is done here free of charge at the Babonneau Health Center. So we're going to refer these clients to the Babonneau Health Center, where they can get the laser done for free.
That service is only available at the Babonneau Health Center?
The laser clinic?
The laser
yes.
Clinic. Okay.
The screening clinics are at Castries Health Center and Beaufort Health Center, and the laser clinic is at Babonneau Health Center. And these services are free of charge.
Shouldn't we have that service available in more areas, more parts of St. Lucia, Soufriere, what about Choiseul and so on?
Well, the number of clients who need laser right now is not so many of them that we need it in all these different places. So for now, we have it at one location, but gradually we're planning to expand.
Other services?
Yes, we have other services. We have free dental services for diabetics. They can go to the health centers like the Polyclinic, the Babonneau Health Center, the Leclerc Health Center to get their teeth cleaned and tooth extracted and fillings done. We have specialist clinics for the diabetic patients, which is conducted by specialists, DMOs who have specialized in diabetes. We have foot care clinics. We have a visiting podiatrist who comes in and do assessments of the feet and provide care and maybe referral where necessary. And we also have chronic disease self-management classes. Now, this one is very important because these classes are there to empower clients, to educate them, and to help them manage their disease conditions. These classes are held at most health centers. We have nurses who are trained to conduct these classes. It's a 6-week class. It's 2.5 hours, and it's only 1 day per week. Okay? Now, during these classes, clients are taught problem solving, decision making, setting achievable goals. Like those who want to exercise will set these goals and see how they could manage their time so they can put in exercise in between, maybe in the morning or the evening, and see how they could do that. And we also have techniques in helping them to manage problems that persons with chronic illnesses or diabetes come across. At our health centers also we have exercise classes. I remember when I worked at La Richose Health Center, we had a large class. The clients would come in the afternoon, they would check their blood sugars before we start, and we'd have a nice class exercising. You could see the elderly doing the little, moving around. So that helped really well. And it is available in some health centers. We also have nutrition officers in every region. They come in, they speak to the clients, they do some nutritional counseling, they help them with their meal planning and how to substitute foods, how to cut out on the salt intake, how to manage their meals. And especially if their families are the ones preparing the meals, they get to bring their family in to assist them and show them how to, better help their family. So we have many services at the health centers, and encouraging persons to at least come to the health center in the areas and find out what is available. They can, I don't know, join the classes if they wish. And you know, most times when we have disease conditions and we feel alone, but if we come together as a group, we are more empowered and more motivated to do so. So like the self-management class, if you come in and you see other persons, they share the same experiences with you, and you could see, but you know, they have managed some situation and you have the same problem, like, oh, well, this is what you did and this might just work for me. So you get to learn from each other and try to cope with your condition better.
Doc, what about people who lose their limbs as a result of diabetes? What do you say to those people? How can it be prevented?
The limb loss?
Because we continue to hear what is being suggested, and I mean, on the ground, people are saying this all the time. Doctors want to come up with all kind of excuses to amputate people's limbs.
Okay. Nurse Nobal was saying that we actually offer foot care services at the health centers. In terms of limb loss, persons can prevent limb loss. We recommend that diabetics first and foremost control their blood sugars, because what happens as your blood sugars are elevated, your white blood cells, your neutrophils, they do not work well. So whereas you may get a little cut as someone who's probably not diabetic, that cut will heal. The diabetic has the unfortunate problem of having the wound not heal, especially if his blood sugar is high. Added to that, the nerves in the feet especially, the diabetes, especially if the blood sugars are always high, the sugar in the blood itself damages the nerves. So that person may not feel that he's walking on a nail, for example, gets a wound, that wound gets infected. It's hard to heal because the white blood cells are supposed to be fixing the infection.
So, Doc, how do you keep your blood sugar under control? Because we're into educating the people.
Okay, so we're looking at, as Nurse Nobal was saying, we're looking at watching what you eat. It's one thing to say, and it's a problem we have. Persons believe that because they are taking tablets, because they are taking insulin, they can literally eat anything they want. It does not work that way.
What should they not eat?
With our meals, with a meal as a diabetic, you shouldn't be drinking soda, even if you're watering it down. The sugar's still in there. You're better off drinking a glass of water. Like Nurse was saying, the carbohydrate should not be a heaped up plate. I tell diabetics who tell me, "Na manger toash bape." I don't even know how to translate that into English, but I know it's a lot of breadfruit. And I said, but you're diabetic, how could you eat all of, oh, it's good, I like it, that kind of thing. And then they take the same dose of insulin, or they forget to take the tablets and so on. It needs to be watching what you eat, taking the necessary medication, doing the exercise, and also checking blood sugars. Persons tend to take the tablets and not check blood sugars. So they would go to the doctor once every 3 months, and that's the point at which they're checking the blood sugars. What happened to checking the blood sugars between that? I say to diabetics, as a diabetic, you need to have a glucometer. Now, unfortunately, the strips are expensive. I will confess, the strips are expensive. But to control your blood sugar, you need to be checking, okay, I had this meal,
but if we're dealing with a problem that is so acute, and we're asking people to take the necessary preventative measures, and even when they are diagnosed with diabetes, to keep it under control and so on, why should those strips be so expensive?
That's a good question. Generally they are.
But why should they be in the first place? Can anybody help me? Why should they be?
No idea. It's a money-making market.
Yeah, there is a money-making component.
And the Ministry of Health has no control over this.
Yeah, I mean...
The ministry, you say the ministry has no control over it? The ministry cannot say, make it a price control item?
Well, we have to realize getting your blood sugar checked at the health center is free of charge.
It's actually free.
And you can come in any day to check your blood sugars. So this is not even really an excuse, because if you are really concerned about controlling your blood sugar, and you can't afford the machine, just walk into the health center, get your blood sugar checked, and it's free of charge.
But if you cannot get into a health center, for if you're suffering some illness that renders you immobile and so on.
Well, we do have the health aides at the health centers who do home visits. So if in the event that you cannot leave your home, you simply call the health center and say, I am not able to come, I would like somebody to assist me.
I just think the strips should not be that expensive.
I think so too, but it is how it is. I mean, there are...
No, it's not a case of it is how it is.
We are looking...
It should be addressed. It should be.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it is not being addressed. It's just that...
Because I think we should say it is how it is for a hurricane, for an earthquake, for a tsunami, but not for those strips.
So, the strips, in terms of the government providing strips, it's something we're looking at, but it's a process. It's not something that happens today, tomorrow, that kind of thing. It is expensive. It is expensive for the government to actually provide them as well. So you would need to look for funding and that kind of thing. But it is something that we're looking at, considering the prevalence of diabetes and how necessary it is for control.
I don't mean to badger you, but how are you looking into it? You say this is something we are looking. How are you all looking into it?
Wow. Okay. It is. We have what you call an NCD policy. In terms of what measures, as let's say as a Ministry of Health or as a country, you need to put in place to actually aid the population in terms of control of the disease and so on. And in our policy, that is actually a part of the policy to actually subsidize within the public sector the cost of strips. Just like currently diabetics do not pay for insulin or the drugs and so on. So that is actually something that was done. So it's like I said, it is a process. It's something that we're looking into, actually we're working on, trying to actually get the strips subsidized so that diabetics would walk in, and the same way you get your insulin, etc., you would literally get a particular number of strips so that you could do.
Doc, do we have any experts in diabetes care in St. Lucia?
We do. We have internists. They would be experts. We also have specialized GPs. They're called GPs with a special interest in diabetes. They would have received specialized training in diabetes management. There is also one diabetes specialist nurse on island as well.
Okay. Now, nurse, what is the way forward, you think, for people who are suffering with diabetes in St. Lucia right now? Generally speaking, what is the way forward for them? Is there any hope on the horizon for them?
Yes, there is hope. There is hope for them because diabetes, as we say, is a lifestyle disease, and it's more or less controlling the blood sugars. Controlling the blood sugars would reduce the complications. So I think there is hope if the clients are compliant and if they are willing to do what they have to do to maintain that blood sugar.
And what about persons ensuring that they are not impacted by diabetes in the first place?
Well, if you are at risk of diabetes, I would encourage individuals to exercise, to make sure they maintain a healthy weight, make sure they eat well, and always keep abreast and also get their screenings done. Gradually go check to see, how my blood sugars are doing, because my mother and father has diabetes. I should be careful.
But for some people, it's inevitable because, as you said, if somebody is suffering with diabetes, if they have diabetes, person suffering diabetes in the family, that almost automatically that they will get it. So
no. I'm not saying almost automatically. No, you could, and I always say this: you are more at risk than the person whose father or mother did not have diabetes. Just because you're at a risk for something doesn't mean you have to get it. Right? I'm at risk for diabetes, but I can do things to make sure I don't get it. In fact, I should, based on my family history, I should have been diabetic a while back, and I should have been in lots of things. Just because you have a risk factor for something doesn't mean you have to get it. If you know that, let's say, dad and mom were diabetic, and probably they were a little obese, or probably their eating habits were not the best, the onus is on you, is on you to correct those things, to make sure that you delay the process as much as possible or that you don't get it.
You're watching Newsmaker Live. Once again, my guests this evening, Sharon Tench Nobal, family nurse practitioner, Dr. Shanna Sir Filbert, master trainer for chronic disease self-management program. And of course, today is World Diabetes Day. When we come back, we'd love to hear from you. So get ready to call us with your questions and comments. Welcome back. We'll put a telephone number on screen right now so that you can call with your questions and comments for my guests. Once again, you're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. Dr. Shanna Sir Filbert and Sharon Tench Nobal, family nurse practitioner. They are my guests as we observe World Diabetes Day under the theme, the family and diabetes. So it's a good opportunity right now to call with your questions and comments. During the break, you're talking about something, metabolic syndrome. You're saying that it's one of the main causes of diabetes and hypertension. So tell me a little bit about it, Doc.
Okay, metabolic syndrome is a huge risk factor with...
My apologies, and you'll get that a lot. So we have a call already. Okay. Good evening, this is Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Good night, Mr. Timothy.
Bonsoir, ça va fait?
Good night, nurse. Good night, doctor.
Good night.
Moi, intéressé pour conversation qui est là. Qui fait me plaisir, parce que vous parlez de santé, et pour vivre plus longtemps. Mais l'année 3 bail, moi, depuis tant de vous, ça m'a raconté, il est intéressant à chaque. Mais l'année 3 bail, moi, je toucher. Moi, à chaque âge, moi, between 80 and 60.
Or between 80 and
60.
Or between 60. Or between 60 and 80?
Yes.
Right. So I can guess who about 75?
No,
okay.
All
right.
Okay. But some of that say give me plus plaisir. Docteur nous parler about les labels pour genou pour affection affecter en bas ou quoi manger. Belle recommandation. Mais là nous témoignons ride là les gens qui passent à les fiefle et là les gens qui peut pas pour ride ça est pas tout. L'autre bail là en manger c'était bail là constant docteur qui a dit par la botte ça. En pile de lait. Peut-être que notre bidon ou ça il fait des gros ou ça une top zone 1000 zones ou je fait ça ou pire. Là, les gens qui ont manger ça, pas manger ça, mais pile de là, on ne peut pas faire différent. So, plutôt, où était mauvais, ou pas une question de choix, ou quand vous faites ça ou pas ça, ça ou pas pour faire. Puis, on se verra dans le bidon. Vous comprenez? So, là, je vais dire, toi, dis-moi, pour mettre toi sur air, pour adresser ça, qui ça ou qui m'a fait 100, toi, ça me donne, ou pas ça, ride, et bon, pas avec les pour ride, et ou pas ça, faute pour manger, ça ou si vous allez faire.
Oui.
Bye bye, good night, merci.
Merci. Qui m'en est pas toi aux autres bon? Bon? Ok. Anton ça nous peut dire sur ça.
Ok, moi comprends ça au cas dit caller. Vraiment sous pas ka ouais, moi suppose ou pas ça li bagay là.
Yeah. Producer, address that for us please.
Exi ou pas ka bien li, mais en chaide le pour ça nous ka parle about diabetes ek famille. Si ou même pas ka li de le ou sa ni jikti ish la, titi ish la sa li ba ou ebe ou sa made esini en chaide sel an di dan ba kon ha. L'autre ba la c'est ça, moi comprendre ça ou ka di about en chaide le nous ka fait ça nous ça. So, nous ka manger ça qui là, mais en style en dedans ça, n'a trouvé même si moun carrément eh ben moi manger tout manche bois pain, puis c'est ça moi teni. Même si c'est bois pain tout seul ou teni, ou peut manger moins.
Okay, hold on. We have a call. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air. Hello, good evening to you, caller. Hello. Okay, go ahead, Doc.
Ou peut manger moins. Na di moun dele moun ka di kokom lan chè, e ben leti a chè ba, na di dele ou peut planter en dedans la cour. La nan chay nou ki ni bay nou sa planter pour nous même manger.
Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Yes, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you.
You before the program, you showed a clip on the children are being more obese. But I noticed that at schools, they sell more soft drinks and sweets for the children. They should really be looking into that, checking the schools, because I mean, if you're talking about children being obese and stuff, so many soft drinks are being sold at schools, and this is one of the main, one of the things that we shouldn't be taking in, all the sodas and stuff, so that's what I wanted to tell you all tonight.
Okay. I think the Ministry of Health has addressed this. Has an extent, Amnes? Doc?
Yes, we are addressing this. Actually, this year we have looked at, actually in January this year, there was, we did have a little ad on TV with children, and we looked at drinking water as opposed to soda. We looked at the ill effects of drinking soda. We are looking into a school policy that ensures that children are actually eating or being served with healthier food options as opposed to soda and so on. We are working on that. We're looking into a school nutritional policy actually, and we're looking at actually banning the sale of soda period in the schools. But I think as well the onus is on the parents. We can't do it without the parents. To actually educate your children. You give them money, try to advise as to what to buy, what not to buy. Also, if you can, give your children food from home as opposed to sending them to school to buy things that they shouldn't be eating around the school.
You have done the call. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air. Thanks for holding on.
Hi, good evening, team. Good
Hi.
evening, Doctor.
Good evening to you.
Doc, I have a question for you. Is there a chart available for your diabetic patients, especially those who are taking insulin? Like, for instance, how much insulin? I know sometimes, you regulate your patients to how much insulin they should take. But is there a way where they suppose, is it, because I actually got into the program a little late. I have a parent who is diabetic. Well, he doesn't live with me, but I'm very concerned about how much insulin that he takes. But I know that, is there a chart available for them that they can use, that when they do have the, and they do take the prick, how you call it, the slide, right? And they check it. Is there a certain amount of insulin that they should take after they have taken the how you call it, the measurement of how much sugar or insulin that they need?
Thank you so much. There's interference, Mr. Producer. Address it for me, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. To be quite honest, insulin therapy or how much insulin we use is very individual, and it varies. It varies. So I wouldn't be able to tell you that there's a specific dose for any one person. But I would tell you that as a caregiver, I think you said your father is diabetic. As a caregiver, you have the opportunity of being able to use the dose that was recommended by the physician or nurse or whoever, and actually be able to measure the blood glucose levels after, let's say, after a meal or in a morning, look at them, know what normal is supposed to be or what the target range is, and then go in to the physician and discuss. So if, let's say, he or she's on 20, that's just an arbitrary number, 20 units of insulin, and you realize that he is taking 20 units and the blood sugars are always high or they're always low, then of course that would be addressed on an individual basis.
We continue to take your calls. Once again, this is Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. My guests this evening, Sharon Tench Nobal and Shanna Sir Filbert, and they're focusing on matters relating to diabetes as we're observing World Diabetes Day today under the theme, the family and the diabetes. Why do you think, I get the impression that the World Health Organization is not giving diabetes the kind of attention that it deserves, at least from my perspective. Is it doing? Is it?
It is.
Am I wrong?
You are wrong.
Okay.
You are wrong.
All right. Because I don't come across a lot of literature from the WHO on diabetes. We have a call. Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good night.
Hi. Good night to you, ma'am.
I'm a diabetic.
Mhm.
I am a diabetic. But when it is high, I have a lot of strength. I can do work. But when you see it's low, it's something else. I'm getting sick. So what do you think about that? What can you help me about? I'm taking insulin, I'm taking tablets, I'm taking all kind of things.
Doc, can you go ahead?
Okay. Hi.
Yes.
You saying you're diabetic, and when your blood sugars are high, you can do everything, but when they're low, you feel weak.
Yes, I have a lot of strength. I have strength. I can do it.
So what are we? What? When we're talking high, are we talking high abnormal, or are we talking normal?
High. Like let's say
Give me a figure.
300, 400, 500 going up. I have a lot of strength in me. I can work.
Okay.
But when you see it's low.
Low
I
as in
am
what
sick.
figure?
Beg pardon?
What figure are we looking
Well,
at
let's
as low?
put 60, 70, 80, 90 something.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see if the doc will be able to provide you for further explanations. You could listen on your television set. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, so one of the problems with diabetes control, and we see that a lot, there are patients whose blood sugars are always high. And actually, sometimes, if they're even within the normal range, they're not going what you call hypo, they're within the normal range, they're already feeling weak because the body has gotten so accustomed to having blood sugars which are high. Now, in as much as the caller is saying she feels that she has strength, the high levels of sugar in her blood are actually damaging every organ of her body. Eyes, heart, kidneys, you name it. So, in as much as she feels that she has strength and she feels fine, she's actually not fine. When she said the blood sugars go down to 60, 70 and so, we do not want blood sugars going below 70, especially not in a diabetic. So of course that she should feel weak when the blood sugars are at that level. But the 300 and 400 and 500, no. So caller, you need to visit your physician and so on and try to get to a normal or a target for you that you can manage. Well, that's good for you, that will not do damage to your body, because right now there is damage being done in as much as you feel as if you have strength.
And it could end up being fatal?
These damages are irreversible.
Yes, that's the problem.
So what, she's being deluded into believing that she's okay, she's doing fine?
She's literally, with numbers like that, she's not doing fine. Yes, she thinks she is.
Okay. What level of assistance, and then I put a question about the WHO. What level of assistance we getting in fighting diabetes from the WHO and PAHO? Let's take a call before that. Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Hello, good evening to you.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And good evening to doctor and the nurse. Doctor, I need to find out a few questions. A few answers, sorry. What is actually the blood range? Some doctors tell you the blood range should be below 100, and some tell you try to make it below 120. Which one is really the true one?
Okay. The blood sugar range in terms of what? In terms of targets for a diabetic or targets for...
No, as a normal person, anybody, that they should keep their blood sugar range within either before 100 or between 100 and 120.
Okay, for fasting blood sugar, which I assume is what you're talking about, after not having eaten for at least 8 hours, waking up in the morning doing your blood sugar, that should be below 100, ideally. As you go above 100, from about 105 up to about 125, you are going into what we call the impaired range, or your body, we could know by those readings that your body is not well, responding to insulin as it should. So yes, below 100 is actually the better way to go in terms of knowing that you're not diabetic at all.
Okay. And in the process of having the sugar level that low, you're feeling weak. Is that still okay?
You shouldn't feel weak below 100, below 70 as a normal person.
Okay. Okay. My next question to you is, you said about the white blood corpuscles being injured or damaged as the sugar levels are high. With a better diet, can that be reversed altogether?
Yes, with a better diet and improving your blood sugar control, your white blood cells would be able to work well, because the sugar, it affects how they work.
Doctor, would you say that with sugar levels being high, it can cause poor circulation?
All of that, yes.
Okay. My last question to you, no, actually it's not really a question, it's something that I have observed. There are certain persons who believe that there are certain drinks that they can drink because it does not say in nutritional information, it does not say sugar. It does not say sugar, it doesn't have sugar. But yet in between the lines you can actually see things like sucrose, or you might see something else that is actually hidden sugar. So sometimes I think, we need to be a little more educated in reading the nutritional values in the back of the whatever we buy in.
Thank you so much.
That's very
Thank
true.
you.
I appreciate your questions. Yeah. Talking about the WHO and PAHO, what role are they playing?
Okay. The Ministry of Health works very closely with World Health Organization and Pan American Health Organization, or PAHO. We look at not only diabetes, we look at non-communicable diseases.
Hold that point, ma'am. Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Oh, yes. Timothy.
Okay. There's a feedback. Your television set is on. Turn on the volume, please. And then you may continue with your contribution. But turn on the volume. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please. Okay, so let's give the caller a few seconds to address that issue, and then she can continue. Hello? Okay. We'll have to say goodbye to you. So if you can, please call back. We'll await your call, ma'am, but turn on the volume of your television set before you call the broadcast. I think you're making a point.
Okay, so I was saying we work closely with PAHO. Actually, we get a lot of technical support from PAHO. We get funding for projects, we get funding for surveys. We are going to be doing next year what you call a behavioral risk factor survey. So we're looking at persons' blood sugars, blood pressures, cholesterol values. All of that, of course, for free. That will be funded by PAHO. We also going into next year as well. There's a HEARTS project that we're going to be doing, where we're going to concentrate very, very strongly on blood pressure values, making sure that the population, the persons who are hypertensive, are actually well controlled, because high blood pressure is a significant risk factor for strokes and heart attacks.
We have a call. Good evening to you, ma'am.
When somebody is diabetic, can they drink a little unsweet wine?
All right, thanks a lot.
Hi. Well, I don't want you to go and say I gave you a license to drink, ma'am. But yes, you would be able to. We just recommend that persons drink in moderation. Persons do not drink on an empty stomach, because that can cause problems. And also, depending on the medication you taking, when you took it, and that kind of thing, you need to be careful with the alcohol.
Talking about giving the opportunity to focus about the festive season, that people really must ensure that they control the whatever they eat and whatever they drink. Nurse.
Well, this is one of the tedious times of the year. we end up splurging a bit too much in the black cake and in the wine and so on. We're encouraging persons to be moderate. Be moderate. You know that your blood sugars are not under control. Do not go and splurge and, you know, get tempted to eat the things that would bring the blood sugars very high. But this is a tedious time of the year. Most persons come in at with very high blood sugars, 400, and the machine might even show HI, you know, it's over 500. So we're encouraging persons to just be moderate.
Let's look at, for example, should people not drink at all or drink in moderation? What should they be not eating? Cake, black cake, and so on?
We're encouraging persons as far as possible to reduce their sugar intake. Because you know when the blood sugars are high, it affects, as doctor said, every organ, okay? And these effects are, you know, irreversible. So as far as possible, we're telling them to try to adhere to the nutritional advice they're given. If they're not sure, like I said, visit the health center. Nutritionists will guide you as to the meals that you can eat and the portions that you can take. So this is my take. They should just seek advice from the nutritionist.
What do you think about the role that's being played by the private sector in terms of educating members of the public? I think we have so many health fairs that are being organized by a number of business outlets in St. Lucia.
I think we have a very good community effort. We're looking at the walks, we're looking at the health fairs. There's this, I remember there was this, what do you call them? The
steps thing.
The steps, there was some competition in terms of the number of steps. We're really happy with that, the fact that the private sector is on board in terms of promoting health, promoting, you know, diabetes control and awareness, cancer, you know.
Is there any kind of collaborative effort between the St. Lucia Diabetes and Hypertension Association, let's say, and the Ministry of Health?
Yes, there is.
To what extent?
We actually, the diabetes, SLDHA works very closely with the Ministry of Health.
Okay. Do we have any activities? We had any particular activities for today's observance, nurse?
Well, at the different wellness centers, we encourage persons to come in and get their blood sugar checked. Just walking at any time of the day, no specific day or time. They've patronized, they've come in to do that, and even when they come in, we counsel them and we encourage them to, you know, keep to their diet and comply to the medication and so on.
But considering we have so many days, do you think World Diabetes Day is getting lost amidst all those observances, or do you think that it's being properly utilized to get a message across?
I think to some extent it is, because at our wellness centers we have what we call the information corner. So with every day diabetes day or cancer, we have a special corner with paraphernalias and information to give out. So I think we try as best as possible to give each day, you know, the due respect.
Okay.
And it's actually Diabetes Awareness Month. So it's a lot of activities, a lot of awareness activities especially. So I think we're trying.
Okay, we have a call. I think that'll be our final call. Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you, ma'am.
I'm just calling to say thanks to you, Timothy, for putting on that program, as well as Doc and Nurse. I've been listening. I'm a board member actually, of the St. Lucia Diabetes Association and Hypertension Association. And I just want to say that, of course, we have a number of activities happening throughout the month, but one of them was the awareness day today, which was the walk, and the walk was in 6 locations, and I must say the walk went very well attended. We did it for the first year in Grosile, and that too went okay. The lanterns was also lit for persons that has passed on. But I just want to say that I'm very happy with that program tonight, and I think we need a little more programs like that throughout the month of November. Thank you so much, Doc and Nurse and Timothy, for putting on that program.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling the broadcast. That was our final call. Let us take in the comments from my guests. Let's start with you.
Yes. So as we close, I would like to emphasize that the Ministry of Health has all these programs that are available that I mentioned earlier. to assist and empower clients with diabetes. I'd like to encourage them to visit the wellness center in the area that they live, find out about the programs, join the programs, and take an active approach to maintaining their health. We are here to assist the clients in the community in St. Lucia at large to manage the diabetes and to encourage them to take a keen interest in their health.
So can we take the opportunity to go through the programs again that are available, but continue.
Okay, I also want to emphasize the diabetic retinopathy program, which is new and most persons might not be aware of it. We're encouraging them to make their appointments to come in because the complications of diabetes we mentioned earlier, with diabetic retinopathy, you might not know that your eyes are getting worse and worse unless towards the end when the changes are irreversible. So we're encouraging persons to every year come in and get their eyes. They can do that right now, but every year they need to get their eyes checked to make sure that there's no damage to the back of the eyes and to take advantage of the free service of the laser clinic. The laser will not improve the vision, but it kind of stops the damage and prevent further damage to the back of the eyes. So come in and get your eyes checked and make it an annual thing, just like we do the pap smear annually. Get our eyes checked annually, especially for persons with diabetes, we're saying. We also want to mention that when you come to the clinic, it's true that we're checking for diabetic retinopathy, but if there are any other changes that need attention like glaucoma or cataract, we refer these clients accordingly.
Final comments from you, Doc?
Proper management of diabetes involves taking care of the whole person. I want patients to understand, physicians, the public at large, that persons with diabetes need a support system. Let's create one, and diabetics, let's be responsible for our health.
Doc, thank you so much for being my guest on this evening's Newsmaker Live, and Nurse, thank you so much for being my guest on the broadcast. And to you, thank you so much for watching. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked. Once again, as a broadcast, thank you so much for watching. My name is Timothy Polion saying good night and see you next time.